Editor's note from the wise wolf. The DOJ released a photograph of our Commerce Secretary on Pedophile Island, and then quietly took it down when CBS caught them. This is what they don't want you to see. This morning, the United States Secretary of Commerce is sitting in a closed-door room on Capitol Hill, answering questions to the House Oversight Committee under threat of subpoena. There are no cameras. There is no live public transcript. The American people, whose trade policy this man oversees, are not allowed to watch their cabinet secretary explain why he kept doing business with the most famous child sex trafficker in modern American history for 13 years after he claims to have cut ties with him. His name is Howard Lutnick. The reason the doors are closed is that this is the part of the story Donald Trump's White House and the cable news networks they share contact lists with would prefer you never hear in his own voice. The transcript will leak in pieces weeks from now, dressed up in whatever framing the major outlets decide is safest. By then, you will be busy with whatever the next manufactured outrage is, and the story will be dead. So Lily and I are making this video now, this morning, while the deposition is happening, so you can see what is in the documents before the spin machine arrives. The short version is this. On Christmas Eve, 2012, Howard Lutnick sailed his wife and his 4 small children to Jeffrey Epstein's private rape island for lunch. A second family came along with their own 4 kids, ages 7 to 16. They had lunch, they left. 4 days later, Lutnick signed a business contract with a convicted child sex trafficker whose island they had just dined on. His signature is on file at the Department of Justice website. The pedophile's signature is on the next page. He kept doing business with the man until at least May 2018, including inviting him to a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in 2015 and accepting a $50,000 donation from him for a charity dinner thrown in Lutnick's honor in 2017. He has told the public on the record, in interviews and on podcasts, that he cut off all contact with Epstein in 2005. He was lying. The DOJ files prove he was lying. He is sitting in a closed-door room right now, answering for those lies, and the United States Senate confirmed him to the cabinet without ever seeing the federal vetting file that flagged fraud and money laundering allegations against him. Think about this for a second. If you, an ordinary person, had taken your kids to a registered child sex offender's house this past Christmas Eve and signed a contract with him 4 days later, CPS would be at your door before sundown. The judge would not care that lunch was an hour, that your wife came along, that you could not recall why you went. That last one would, in fact, get entered into the record as evidence of guilty conscience, and your bond would be set accordingly. Howard Lutnick did all of those things. The Senate confirmed him 51-45. What is on file at the Department of Justice website? Until the Department of Justice began releasing the Epstein files in 2025, Howard Lutnick had a tidy story he repeated everywhere. He told the New York Post in October 2025 that he toured Epstein's Manhattan home in 2005, saw a candlelit massage table sitting in the middle of the living room, a normal piece of decor for the wealthy, alongside the candlelit fondue station and the candlelit Pilates reformer, made a polite excuse and walked out forever. He called Epstein disgusting. He went on a podcast and pledged he would never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. He even floated on the record the theory that Epstein was operating as a blackmailer. It was a story built for a cabinet appointment. But here's what happened next. The documents arrived. The documents have ruined many a tidy story. Every receipt below is sourced to DOJ file releases under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Primarily reported by CBS News, ABC News, Bloomberg, Newsweek, and The Guardian. 2006. Donald Trump phones Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder as the first Epstein investigation breaks. per the 2019 SBI interview with Ryder that surfaced in the released files. Trump tells the chief, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." The man who would eventually appoint Lutnick to his cabinet is, in 2006, on the record with a federal officer, telling that officer that everyone in his circle knew Epstein was a child predator. 2009. 4 years after Lutnick says he cut ties forever. 1 year after Epstein's federal guilty plea. An intermediary emails Epstein, "Howard Lutnick would like to speak to you," asking whether to share Epstein's number. 2011. Lutnick and Epstein meet for drinks. Two old neighbors, one of them a registered sex offender, catching up like normal adults, catching up after 6 years apart. December 19, 2012. Lutnick personally emails Epstein. "Hi, Jeff. We are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's/Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What is exact location for my captain?" The casual Jeff is doing a lot of work here. December 24, 2012. Christmas Eve. The Lutnick family yacht arrives at Little St. James, the island where Epstein raped underage girls and where survivors have testified, in deposition after deposition, that they were trafficked. They have lunch for an hour. Then they leave. Epstein's assistant emails afterward, "It was nice seeing you." December 28, 2012. 4 days after the lunch. Lutnick signing for CVAFHI and Epstein signing for Southern Trust Company sign a contract acquiring stakes in an advertising company called Adfin. Their signatures are on neighboring pages of the same document. Lutnick's defenders have suggested he didn't know who his fellow investors were. The fellow investor, whose signature was directly next to his on the page, was, at this point, the most famous registered child sex offender in the United States. January 8, 2013. 11 days later, Epstein's assistant forwards Lutnick a document about casino legislation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Epstein owned property. Lutnick is now actively receiving lobbying material from the man's office. 2014. Adfin correspondence continues. A shareholder writes Epstein about additional fundraising involving Cantor Ventures, the venture capital subsidiary of Cantor Fitzgerald, where Lutnick was chairman and CEO. 2015. Lutnick invites Epstein to a very intimate fundraising event with Hillary Clinton. This is real. The future Trump cabinet member in 2015 sent the convicted child sex trafficker a personal invitation to a private Hillary Clinton fundraiser. 2017. Epstein donates $50,000 to a UJA Wall Street dinner honoring Howard Lutnick. Epstein himself privately worries about the optics of his involvement, a remarkable concern from a registered child sex offender. But here we are. Lutnick's people accept the money anyway. May 2018. Lutnick is still in email contact with Epstein's assistant, 13 years after he says he cut ties. January 30th, 2025. The federal vetting process called ARMS, REACH, flags fraud and money laundering allegations against Howard Lutnick. The DOJ writes on the record, "We did not open an investigation as a result of these allegations. They flagged the fraud, they flagged the money laundering, they did not investigate, they sent him to the Senate." February 2025. The Senate confirms him 51-45 without seeing the federal vetting file.
Hello out there in internet land. I'm Lily, the editor at The Wise Wolf, and I just wanted to steal a moment of your time to urge you to subscribe to our god-awful channel. Otherwise, my professor is going to press charges for breaking into his office to shoot this clip. Thanks. Bye now.
February 2026. Lutnick under oath at a Senate hearing. "We had lunch on the island, that is true, for an hour. Then we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it." He cannot recall. The photograph. The DOJ quietly disappeared. Among the 180,000 released images is one designated EFTA 012-30639. It shows a group of men gathered at a coastal property. Jeffrey Epstein is in it. Howard Lutnick, in a blue shirt, is in it. The setting is reported to be Little St. James. CBS News found the photograph on the DOJ database. CBS started asking the DOJ questions. Within hours, a photograph was gone. The link returned a friendly little page not found. CBS published anyway. Within hours of CBS publishing, the photograph was magically restored. The DOJ's official explanation, courtesy of spokesperson Natalie Baldassari, was that the image had been part of a batch of files that were flagged for nudity. A photograph of the United States Commerce Secretary on a child sex trafficker's private island, removed from the public database the moment a major news outlet started asking about it, was flagged for nudity. Out of 180,000 photographs, this particular one, just a coincidence. What Lily and I think this means. The Commerce Department's official statement on all of this deserves to be hung in a museum somewhere behind glass. Quote, Secretary Lutnick had limited interactions with Mr. Epstein in the presence of his wife and has never been accused of wrongdoing. Limited interactions. Drinks in 2011. Christmas Eve on the Rape Island. A business contract 4 days later. Lobbying material received 11 days after the contract. Multi-year venture capital correspondence. A Hillary Clinton fundraiser invite. A $50,000 donation. Email contact through 2018. The Commerce Department on government letterhead calls all of that limited. Then there is the sentence that should make every viewer stop. In the presence of his wife. Nobody asked, nobody implied a cabinet secretary was sneaking around behind his wife to hang out with a child rapist on a Caribbean island. The Commerce Department, on the record, voluntarily preempted the obvious accusation. Innocent people do not preemptively defend themselves against accusations that have not been made. The Commerce Department telegraphed the obvious accusation by bracing for it. You do not hang out with pedophiles on their private pedophile island. There are exactly 2 reasons a man keeps showing up around a registered child sex offender after the conviction. Either you do not know about the conviction, or you do know, and the relationship is providing you something more valuable than the cost of being seen with him. Lutnick knew. He has admitted he knew. He called Epstein disgusting. He told the New York Post he believed Epstein was a blackmailer. He kept showing up anyway. He kept signing contracts. He kept inviting him to fundraisers. Let me spell it out for you. Either Howard Lutnick is one of them, or Howard Lutnick was being blackmailed by them, or Howard Lutnick was being paid by them. Pick whichever door is least disqualifying for the office of Secretary of Commerce. There is no fourth door. There is no version where the man currently running American trade policy spent a decade in business with a child sex trafficker because he was a good guy doing innocent things. Trump says he didn't know. He knew 20 years ago. The official White House line is that Donald Trump had no idea any of this was going on. Trump himself, asked by a reporter whether he had read the new files his cabinet secretary is named in, gave this for an answer. I didn't. I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, there would have been major headlines. The President of the United States is taking the integrity of his cabinet on faith from the same media he calls the enemy of the people. Now hold that against the receipt at the top of Section 1. 20 years ago, Donald Trump told a Florida police chief that everyone in his circle knew Epstein was a child predator. He told a cop. The cop wrote it down. The FBI wrote it down. It is on the Department of Justice website right now. The same Donald Trump who in 22 told New York Magazine that Epstein was a terrific guy who liked his women on the younger side. Trump knew Lutnick. Lutnick knew Epstein. Epstein knew Trump. The 3 of them moved through the same Manhattan to Palm Beach to Caribbean circuit for 30 years. with each other's contact information in their phones and each other's wives at their parties. The idea that Donald Trump did not know his cabinet secretary had spent a decade in business with the man Donald Trump himself once called a terrific guy is a thing only a stupid person is expected to believe. That is the part you need to feel right now. They think you are stupid. They are counting on you being stupid. The architecture of their public defense rests on the assumption that you will not pay attention long enough to remember what they said yesterday, last year, or 20 years ago. They lie because they expect to get away with it. They expect to get away with it because for 30 years, they have. They have looked into a camera and said one thing while the receipts said the opposite, and the country has nodded and gone back to its phone, and they have walked out richer. They lie for each other because they are all in the same file. Donald Trump appears in 3,200 plus pages. Bill Clinton has been deposed. Bill Gates testifies in June. Peter Thiel is the subject of a congressional probe involving a $1.5 billion money trail. Larry Summers is in the files. Noam Chomsky advised Epstein on PR. Richard Branson advised Epstein on PR. Steve Bannon has hundreds of friendly text messages with Epstein from the months before Epstein conveniently died in his cell. Elon Musk emailed Epstein twice, trying to plan helicopter trips to the Rape Island. These names cross every line cable news has trained you to fight over. The teams matter to the people fighting on the field. They do not matter to the people who own the league. The owners cycle through both colors of jersey because both jerseys come from the same locker room, and the locker room belonged to a child rapist. If you still think your team is the good team, you are the mark. The reason your news feed is full of the manufactured outrage of the week is not that those are the most important stories of the moment. It is that as long as you are arguing about bullshit, you are not asking why the man running American trade policy signed a contract with a child sex trafficker 4 days after lunching with him on his rape island. The 24-hour news cycle is not journalism. It is a dopamine drip designed to leave you tired and incurious by 9 p.m. every night, while the people in the photograph quietly finish whatever they are finishing. You are being managed. They have measured your attention span, run the focus groups, A/B tested the chyrons, and built an industry around keeping you furious at the wrong things. Every evening you spend yelling at a stranger online instead of at your senator. They win another 24 hours. Forward this to the brother-in-law who told you Trump is draining the swamp, the dad who told you Republicans are tougher on crime, the sibling who voted for Hillary in 2016, the cousin with the Bernie stickers, the friend who quit politics because it stresses them out. Bring up Howard Lutnick by name at Thanksgiving. Make it impossible for the people who decide what is news to keep pretending this is not news.